We're live? All right. Hi, everyone. It's Daisy. I dragged Daisy back into the studio, and Roy. We're going to talk to you today about, what are we talking about? Like sandwiching stuff between glass. That's what we're talking about.
Creating stained glass with fabric and paper.
Oh, well, that's even better, right? So sorry we're a few minutes late. We, like it often happens when we're about ready to go live, you know, we're open for business and we got pretty busy, so Daisy and I both had to pitch in and help out a little bit.
Yeah.
So we're in Lansing, Michigan, so if you're ever in the area, just make sure you come visit us. We'd love to see you. But I talked Daisy into helping out with to this week because she's the stained glass queen. And
I'm a queen?
well, I think so. So,
Okay.
so you know, we were trying to just find some different things to do with stained glass, right? And so I had seen things done before where people incorporate paper or fabric. I guess fabric, I hadn't thought about fabric, but Daisy brought that to everything. Yeah. And then making pieces. So you can see some of the pieces we have laying around. We used to have someone that taught a class here that did like make these really nice butterflies or birds that hang. And, you know, if you're a scrapbooker, you probably have like, you know, how much extra paper do you have like laying around, right?
Usually you cut it up into like smaller pieces, so you have all this extra.
Yeah, a bunch of stuff,
so,
right?
Yeah.
And then jewelry is another great way of using it. You can see these lovely banana ensemble that Daisy made. I couldn't convince her to wear it, so I'm sure Kaylee will put it on later. Right?
I'll wear it, sure.
So I guess we're going to talk a little bit about it. I mean, in some ways it sounds kind of simple, right? I mean, take a piece of paper, two pieces of glass, just put them together, but it's a little more involved than that, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. Just especially if you do something that's kind of like not a square, it's a little bit harder to kind of get it to fit all nicely because you're putting stuff in between two layers, so the two pieces of glass have to basically be the exact same size and shape. So it's a little challenging.
And it helps to have the paper or the fabric the same size too. I know when Daisy was working on this lovely strawberry, right? Sorry, we don't have places to hang stuff in this room, but the leaves, look how intricate and fancy the shape of the leaves are, and then having to cut the fabric to fit that. I know that was not easy, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, look at see where you can see what kind of fabric that it came out of, but great. And then, of course, embellishing it with jewels. That's always a fun thing, right? So.
Little, spinner.
Oh, yeah, sorry, the spinner is here. Oh, yeah, we can use this little spinner here, right? So we can spin. I must be holding it wrong because it's not spinning very well.
That one's a little...
It just kind of goes back and forth. It's not as spinny. But, so I guess you're going to show us sort of how it's done, right, Daisy?
I can show how I did it.
That's good enough for me.
But I say whatever works for you, I guess. But I did it the same way for the strawberry and the banana pieces. So
the banana is also fabric, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, I know you didn't bring the sample in, but you did. Oh gosh, you're way ahead of me. Man, you could just go into banana jewelry.
Yeah. I could. I have so many.
You have so much.
And I actually, so you know how fabric is like kind of a little bit see-through? So I didn't want that necessarily. So I actually had this other yellow fabric. It kind of had some other design, but this is small enough I could cut a little piece of the yellow, so it kind of matched my banana theme without having to try and like cut another banana.
That matched perfectly, right? Yeah, that could be challenging.
So, and it's a lighter color fabric, so it is a lot easier to see through, especially like if you have things that might have light come through, you can still see the banana.
Or if they get flipped around, right?
Yeah.
I mean, earrings.
Yeah. So instead of seeing the kind of faded banana, I wanted to cover it with something that matched. So.
Yeah, I thought that was a great idea.
So there's 2 layers of fabric in everything I did except for the leaves.
Oh yeah, even on the strawberry, right? Because you wanted to see the dots on both sides of the glass. So we're using, if you're wondering, it's float glass, right? Just regular window glass that is referred to as a single strength.
You turn it sideways.
Yeah, so you can see how thin it is. So that's the key, right? You want to work with a pretty thin glass, or as thin as you can, just because it's then kind of cuts down on the bulk of whatever you're
Yeah.
making.
So it's not so ridiculously
Yeah,
thick.
so thick.
I wanted to use the micro, but we didn't have any.
Yeah, this one is a, if you can see the butterfly and how thin the butterfly is, this is actually made out of a type of glass called micro glass, which is not quite as thin as like a,
Like 0.8.
is that what it is?
something?
Man,
0.8.
yeah, I was thinking of like a glass slide or something,
think,
right? You know
yeah.
how thin those are. It's pretty close to that, but it's also has its own problems working with something that thin. I personally like the single strength a little bit better because it's easy. I find it easier to cut, and you don't have to worry about breaking it so often. It does make things a little sturdier,
A little bit.
maybe too
thicker,
sturdy.
but
Yeah.
no such thing. Okay, so I have these 2 squares of just single strength float glass, just cut into little 2-inch squares to make it a little bit easier for demonstration purposes. So I'm going to actually lay it on the back side of my fabric because I can actually use a pencil to draw on my fabric, so I don't have to try and like have a blade right up against my glass or anything, and I have lines to follow, and if for whatever reason you can see the pencil lines on the fabric, they're on the back side, so it doesn't really matter. So looks like I have a pretty nice square corner there, so I'm just going to use that to my advantage. It's kind of like doing, or like tracing out a pattern to do stained glass, like regularly, if you have a straight edge,
Oh,
take advantage of it.
might as well use it.
So now I only have to make 2 cuts.
And you're cutting off the line similarly to
Yep.
your traditional pattern making.
But it doesn't matter so much, but I mean, I'm going to have some pretty wide foil, so my lines are going to be covered anyway, even if they were visible, but that's also why I put it on the back side.
So is it better to cut a little smaller than a little bigger, would you say?
Maybe a little bit smaller, so kind of like stained glass, if you cut on the inside of your line, that way you can make sure that you don't have to trim off more, especially if you use your glass to trace your pattern.
And you're not just using like just regular scissors, right?
No, I have these fancy schmancy fabric scissors. So they are meant to cut fabric. So anybody that does a lot of sewing or quilting or anything like that will probably have a pair of these. But if I was cutting paper, I would just use regular scissors.
Yeah, I just learned this whole fabric scissors thing the other day. I was blown away by it. I did. How did you know?
They're
They're special scissors just for fabric.
They're
People.
super duper sharp.
I know. And don't use them for anything else but your fabric, right? You'll get in trouble.
People are very picky about it.
I know.
All right, so might be a little bit too big, but that's okay. All right, so I could cut that out and leave it just like this, depending on the application that I'm going to use this in. So if I were to make a box with this piece, I might not worry about the backside there, but it's a little faded. So if I was putting this, say, in a stained glass piece that's going to go in a window, then I might come in here and cut another piece so that my backside is back to back and I have nice bright fabric on both sides.
Nice idea. And then, I mean, I'm sure you're going to say this, sorry if I'm jumping in, but I know that when I was doing pieces, it's really important at this point, like, to clean the glass, right?
Yes.
I mean, because the inside of the glass, once you foil it, I mean, you don't want to, unless you want to sign your work with a, fingerprint or something like that. It's real easy to.
The only thing about fabric is it has these little strings that kind of pull out a little bit, so you just want to trim those.
Yeah, you got
But
fancy scissors to do that with.
I do. Okay, so I'm going to just leave this one layer of fabric for today. So now that I've fingerprinted my glass up, I'm going to use my glass cleaner, which I already have on here, and I'm going to only touch the edges because I don't want to put fingerprints on any of the surfaces. It's kind of dusty too.
And any glass, at this point, any glass cleaner works, right?
Yeah.
I mean, around here we try to use, in the glass world, we try to use glass cleaners that don't contain any ammonia. Usually stained glass or even for fusing, they don't really like it all that much. So that's the type of cleaner we have here. It's just something we get at our local store, but it's plant-based. It's a plant-based cleaner that doesn't contain any ammonia or vinegar. You don't use those.
All right, that's pretty clean. So I'm mostly worried about the sides that are touching my fabric and how clean those are, because I obviously can't clean that after I foil it. So now I can touch this and it's fine. Where did I put?
And then, we hit the foil. So here's the trick, right? Or the really.
Okay, so even though we have single strength float glass, it's a little bit thinner than normal standard glass. It adds a little bit of thickness when you have 2 layers of it, and you have the little bit of thickness added from the material in between. So I like to go with a 3/8 foil just to make sure that it's completely wide enough, and you can always trim it down afterwards with an X-Acto knife if you'd like, which I did do on these little banana pieces. Just on the front, on the back I left it how it was, so you can see that it's a lot thicker, but I wanted to make sure that the banana was nice and visible, so I trimmed that up on the front.
The other option here is you can use 2, so if you don't have really wide foil, you can overlap foil. So you could put one on around the whole piece, and then go back and put a second piece on that then overlaps both sides of the glass. But I think we both agreed, right, that this is a little easier, having one that's wider. I think you have less risk of moisture getting between the 2 layers of glass. I'll tell you, that's one of the trickiest things about this whole process, is trying to avoid any kind of moisture.
Yes. All right, so I'm just going to foil this like I normally would. You just have to make sure that you keep a tight hold on your edges, so make sure they're not sharp, because you don't want them to shift around. Once you get around 2 of the edges, you're a little bit more free to not hold it as tightly. But just like you would foil a normal piece, you want to keep it as in the center of your foil as possible. And then going back to the moisture part of this and how much you don't want that, I normally don't overlap the ends of my foil at all, but for this application I do, just a teeny bit, because I want to make sure I close that up and don't have any open bits.
That's that's crazy, because I guess we're more similar than I thought. I don't overlap either. When I'm normally doing copper foil work, I try not to overlap edges because I think it sometimes interferes with how it fits. But I did the exact same thing when I was doing my pieces, that I leave just a little extra because you do want to make sure that there's no place for moisture to get through. So
I started at this corner, and normally I would cut it flush there, but I'm going to go just a little bit. Doesn't have to be a crazy amount.
okay.
And then
exactly what I
just fold that in, so that way that corner is completely closed up.
Wow, I did the same thing. That's amazing.
What?
I know.
It makes sense.
If you were Val, you would not be agreeing with all this. This wouldn't be going this smooth. It'd be a little.
Should I just? Oh, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you got to scowl at me a couple times, I think.
All right, so I'm gonna just.
Great. I noticed also that you went and grabbed a different pair of scissors.
Well, I can't ruin my nice fabric scissors.
That's good. That's good, people.
We talked about this.
Hopefully people are taking notes. Hey, again, if you guys have questions anytime during this, feel free to reach out to us, right? You can drop us a message below or contact us through email, right? It's Facebook at delphiglass.com or Instagram and those other things. I can't remember, sorry. I don't have my sheet, but...
Through Facebook messages as well as Instagram direct messages.
Wow, thanks, Kaylee. That's why you're around to help us with this.
All right, so
You're burnishing it really, really well.
yes.
Yeah, that's the other key, right?
So the edges here, it's a little, you can see the edges of the glass, but we're gonna get it nice and soldered so you won't be able to tell, so it's fine.
Yeah, I was doing the same thing. So when you're burnishing, even though you're going to try to cut the glass as perfectly as you can, they're not always going to fit exact, and so one might be a little hair bigger or not line up as well. So I know that. So it's important to try to rub both pieces of glass, if that makes sense, right? So not just down the middle where you're just going to hit the high spots on the glass, but yeah, you can see how Daisy's coming in and getting the lower piece a little bit better.
It's kind of splitting there, can see, but it's still all one piece of foil. It's just, you can see the edges of the glass.
And Elaine is asking, how'd you do the corners? So this is just one piece of
yep.
foil, and then Daisy mentioned she goes and overlaps.
Yep.
I think she means here, right? So like I think I'll let you go ahead, Daisy. You say how you did it, right?
So it's just how I normally foil pieces when I have a corner. So I'll fold down one edge and then fold down the other edge right on top. So it makes as flat of a corner as possible.
Like wrapping a Christmas present.
Yeah.
Yep, very similar.
So when I teach classes, I show it with my hands. You want to fold it down like this and then fold it down like this. So you're not like trying to do this, because if I do this, I get this little peak, and then you have to decide which way that goes. So you would just want to do that and do that. So then it's nice and flat.
I like that. I think
It
I'm
must
gonna,
be a wrapping.
I'm gonna steal that when I'm teaching.
I'm a visual learner, so I feel like being shown.
That does make sense, right? One
'cause
side and one
just
side.
trying to explain it. People that have never done this before, they don't know.
They don't really know
They
what
don't
you're
get
talking
it,
about,
and then
yeah.
they just like squish it down, and then you have your adhesive showing, and it's like just a mess. And
Elaine, just thank you.
you're welcome.
And then of course here again, we've said it a couple times, and hopefully it's obvious, is that the burnishing is probably one of the really most important things here. I mean, a lot of times when I'm doing regular stained glass, right, you got to burnish. Okay, it's good enough, but here we're trying to eliminate any kind of moisture getting under the foil. So whether it's flux, water, the glass cleaner, we are going to talk about cleaning in just a few moments.
So I don't know how much you can see, but you can kind of see like a little gap there.
Yep.
I have not burnished that edge yet, but I have burnished this one, so you can kind of see how flat it is to the glass. So you're trying to get it as flat to the surface of the glass as possible.
And it's another reason, good reason why we use the float glass, right? Because the float glass is so
Smooth.
flat, right? Did I say flat like 4 times in one sentence, I think? But
Flat glass.
that's what I said. Instead of float glass, I didn't say flat. That's all right. That's right. No one's really paying attention to me anyway. So
I don't know. People listen to you sometimes.
sometimes that might be true.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna keep doing this.
Yeah, you're doing a great job, man. She's doing a great job. So let me then show you my project, I guess, right? So I had this crazy idea of doing a box, right? Because why not? So I took a comic book, and because a lot of the stuff that Daisy and oh man, we didn't show you the spinner, right? That Izzy made. So Izzy that works here at Delphi, I think you guys have probably seen her on our Facebooks a couple times. Made this really lovely. It's a spinner. I know in here it doesn't spin so great, but you can see how it moves. And then the fabric then is not in all the pieces, but in just a few of them. You can see this really nice fabric that's inside there. She picked a green glass to kind of complement that, and again using some of these nice, fun, colorful jewels to just kind of accent it.
And she painted.
And she painted.
Yeah.
I know she is like so.
The green
yeah.
pieces are actually tack fused to a clear piece to
Oh,
get
I
it
do.
thicker
Oh.
because two pieces with the fabric is thicker, she wanted to match the thickness as close as possible.
So smart.
Oh,
So
man, there you go.
she tack fused it to a thin piece, but then that gave her the opportunity to put some glass line paints on there and kind of embellish the green pieces too.
Man, she's so creative. Yeah.
And it's
Right?
her first spinner.
So for fusers, right? What a great way of incorporating into stained glass, right? I know a lot of times people think, oh, I'm only doing stained glass, everything has to be stained glass, but it's one of the reasons why we wanted to show you these is because I think they're a little out of the normal of what we typically do. But again, so just if you guys want to get a chance to look at my box real quick. So I didn't have time to finish it, which often happens. You could ask me when I was soldering this, and it might have only been an hour ago, but. You can see, it's Spider-Man, right? And I didn't worry about the inside. So if you see the inside, this is just the other sheet of the other side of the comic, right? So I have some of the sheets laying out just so you guys can see like what I was working with. And I just cut whatever fit kind of the image that I was trying to go with here on the box. And decided not to put anything on the back only because I thought it's the back of the box, who really cares? And then that's the lid. And I made one of the cardinal mistakes when making a box. I made the lid the exact same size as everything else, so it wouldn't stay on there. So I soldered some ball chain around the outside, just so it sits on the top. And then I just haven't put the hinge on, like I said, because I didn't have time. But I'm pretty sure if you go to our video section, right, either go to our YouTube channel or our videos page on Facebook. I think we've already done a box thing. But again, if you have questions about that and reach out to us, and I'll be happy to answer the boxes about answer questions about making a box. I just not going to go into it today. But the other thing I wanted to show real quick was, so sometimes making boxes, you get really wide gaps. Like you look at the back of it here, that's really wide, which is fine because I got to solder something in there. But on the front, I just didn't think it looked all that great. So these are actually glass rods that are used for making beads. And all I did was cut them down. I foiled the tip of them, and then just soldered them in just to add some decoration to the surface or to the box, right? Just give it a little bit something different. And then it looks like I didn't get any moisture in there. I wasn't really sure. This is the first time I've looked at it closely. I was, it's such a challenge, right? I mean, paper, you'll see it if it's wet. I mean, you notice it like right away.
Yeah.
One of the things has to do with cleaning. So a couple things. First is when we're using flux, I try to use a small amount of flux as possible. Yep. And again, if you've heard me talk about soldering and working with flux, I always trim the bristles of my flux brush so they're shorter. That way they don't hold as much flux. So then you don't apply too much, right? And then I dip a little bit. I usually brush off a bunch and then just go ahead and then flux. So that helps. The other thing is when we clean it. Mm-hmm. So there's a couple of different types of cleaners that we sell, that Delphi sells, and I use them both, actually. I think they're great. One of them is called CJ's. I didn't bring it in, but it is a cleaner that needs to be rinsed off. So you have to take the piece to a sink, running water, all that kind of stuff. So you could see where that could increase the chances maybe of getting some moisture somewhere you don't want it. So instead I'm using this quick clean, and again, what it does is neutralize the acid that's in the flux. And one of the great things about this product is it doesn't need to be rinsed off with water. So you can just spray it on and then wipe it off, and then you're good to go. Mm-hmm. And so what that does is really kind of help you control, I think, how much moisture you're getting on your piece as you clean it off.
Yeah.
You'd agree?
Yeah.
Right?
There was a little bit
you're
that
going to confess?
got in here. Yeah. I am. You can't really see it.
I don't even see it anymore.
Oh,
is it?
Right there.
Oh,
you can
man.
see where it kind of got a little bit wet, and it just stained it.
Man, just a tiny bit, though.
Yeah, and a little bit on the leaves too, but I mean, I don't know what the difference is with how likely it is with the fabric or the paper, because the fabric's a little bit thicker.
Yes.
So it might leave a little more space to really get in there. So.
And I wonder if the fibers kind of can wick the moisture in, right? Maybe, I don't know, but again, if you guys were here and could see this piece, you would know that she actually had any moisture in there.
I got some moisture in with the banana pieces too, but that dried up and you can't even tell. So it might also depend on the color of fabric and how the pattern and things like that, if you can see it. But definitely try to avoid it.
Yeah, I think that's the key, right? It's again just burnish the copper real well. Try to use a small amount of flux as you possibly can, and again use a cleaner like this that doesn't need to be rinsed, and you should be good.
Yeah.
I don't know. Was there anything else that I think?
We're going to talk about the solder.
Oh yeah, just real quick. Yeah. So thanks, Daisy, for reminding me. A couple of things. I brought out just a few things that I used when I was making the box, right? And again, I probably have talked about these before. I know. Marvel should give me some kind of a kickback. Maybe. I know. I mean, hey, if they want to sponsor us, we'll be happy to sponsor you. But I wanted to make something that was kind of fun that I thought might go in a kid's room or something. And so, yeah, right. So I used a lead-free solder. And this is a particular one that's made by Canfield. Again, something you can buy here at Delphi. And Daisy and I both have used this before. I think you used it in your jewelry pieces,
Yep.
right?
That's what's
So a lot of times we recommend if you're doing, something that's going to touch the skin, a necklace or something perhaps, or something that's going to be handled, a box, a kaleidoscope, to use lead-free solders. And I can tell you that this was the first time I used this one, and I think it was the first time you did too.
Yeah.
And I found it real easy to work with. A lot of times lead-free solders require a little more heat because they have a lot of tin in them. And so they don't flow as nicely as we're used to, like a 60-40 solder. But I'll tell you, I thought this one I didn't have any problem soldering with it. I was really pretty pleased with it. And again, the thing is, it's totally lead-free, so pretty okay to handle. You'll notice I also, I did a lot of the soldering used in this thing called a Boxer, or whatever it's called, the Boxer. Box maker. Is that what it's called?
I think.
I don't know. Sorry. And then, of course, the always popular wedgies. So, I used. They're popular and they're not popular. So,
We use them a lot.
yeah,
so
there
I
you
use
go.
those.
So there you go.
We can link them too in the comments.
Yeah, well,
below.
again, sure, if you're interested in any of that stuff. So, but otherwise, I think that's probably it, right?
I think so.
All right,
All
cool.
right.
Well, thanks for joining us today. We think we'll be back in a couple of weeks. That's supposed to be the plan, and we have no clue what we're going to be doing. But
So suggestions are welcome.
hey, suggestions are always welcome.
Yeah. Tell me what to make for Roy.
Yeah, tell Daisy what to make. All right, thanks for joining us. See you.